Okay, so in this video, we're going to see how you can manage activity lifecycle inside your Android application. As user navigates through, out of, and back to your app, the activity instance in your app transitions through different states in their lifecycle. The activity class provides several callbacks that allow the activity to know that state has changed. Within the lifecycle callback methods, you can declare how your activity behaves when the user leaves and re-enters the activity. To navigate transitions between stages of the activity lifecycle, the activity class provides a core of 6 callbacks: onCreate, onStart, onResume, onPause, onStop, and onDestroy. The system invokes each of these callbacks as an activity enters a new state. So as you can see, this is a diagram of how the life cycle of the activity is. So the activity launch, then the onCreate callback is called, then onStart, then onResume, and here's where the activity is running. If another activity comes into foreground, it calls onPause. If the user returns to the activity, it calls onResume. But if we are on pause and the activity is not longer visible, we call onStop. Then, if the user navigates to the activity again, it calls onRestart from onStop, and then again on onStart, then onResume, and then we're going to activity running again. So, for these callbacks, we're going to see an example of an activity, of two activities, how they interact with each other, and how and when does these callbacks are being called. So let's get started. Okay, so to do our app, we first need to start Android Studio. So we initiate our Android Studio application. Okay, so we start a new Android project, and we're going to call it ActivityLifeCycle. We click next. We set things by default. We select an empty activity. We're gonna name this activity Activity 1 because we're gonna use two activities, and then inside the Android Studio editor we're gonna add the new activity, and then we're gonna manage how we can go inside this activity and the other activity we're gonna create. So this will be activity number 1. Notice that it has layout with the name activity number 1. So we click finish and we just wait till the project loads. Okay, now that your application has loaded, you're going to see that you have the default onCreate implementation. So, this callback fires when the system first creates the activity. In here, you perform basic application startup logic that should only happen once for the entire life of this activity. Here, we're going to create an interaction with the Android monitor, so it can tell us in which state we are. To do so, we're gonna set our debug method, and we're gonna create log.d for debug, and we need a tag to reference this message and a message. So we're gonna create a tag 1, and the message will be status. And because we are on onCreate method, we call this onCreate, and we create the tag. So final string tag 1, and it will be activity 1 here. And we're gonna go on for the next callbacks. So here we have the different callbacks. We have onStart callback, we have onRestart callback, onResume, onPause, onStop, onDestroy. Because we override them, they use the super constructor. Each one, the onResume, onPause, onDestroy, and onRestart. Everything is, even onCreate. And we also set a log for these callbacks. So we know that if we start onStart, then we will be prompted with status on start, or status on restart, or status on resume, on pause, on destroy. So the onRestart callback is called after onStart when the activity is being reinitialized from a previous state. The onResume, when the activity enters the onResume state, it comes to the foreground and the system invokes the onResume callback. This is the state in which the app interacts with the user. The app stays until something happens to take focus away from the app, such as an event, a phone call, or the user navigating to another activity. When an interrupt occurs, the activity enters the pause state and the system invokes onPause. If the activity returns to the resume state from the paused state, the system calls once again onResume method. So it calls again onResume method. We're going to see onStart. onStart calls when the activity enters the started state. The start calls makes activity visible to the user as the app prepares for the activity to enter the foreground and become interactive. For example, methods is here where the app initializes the code that maintains the UI. Now we're going to see onPause. The system calls this method as the first indication that the user is leaving your activity. Use the pause method to pause operations such as animation and music playback that should not continue while the activity is in pause state, and that you expect to resume shortly. Then onStop. When the activity is no longer visible to the user, it has entered the stopped state, and the system invokes this callback. This may occur, for example, when a newly launched activity covers the entire screen. The system may also call onStop when the activity has finished running and is about to be terminated. In the onStop method, the app should release almost all the resources that are needed while the user is not using it. And the final one, onDestroy. It's called before the activity is destroyed. This is the final call that the activity receives, that the system either invokes this callback because the activity is finished. So those are the uses for the different states in the life cycle of this activity. So we're going to see how does the life cycles interact and how they are called when we switch from one activity to another activity. To do so, we're going to create first a button and we're going to set our first layout. So we type here and we're going to edit the text. We can also from text, and from hello world we're going to get activity 1. So now in our design we will have activity 1. I'll wrap it here, and then we're going to add a button and it will be with the text go to activity 2. Okay, remember to always infer constraints since we're using a constraint layout. So we have everything here. We just need to add functionality to this button.